So today's cardinal lesson is talking about the emotional, physical, and financial consequences of a long-term care crisis. And by crisis, I mean this just happens all of a sudden in families where one of the older parents has a stroke, has dementia, and people have really been hiding it and denying it, and then something happens, like in my mom's case, she had a small car accident. She got lost one time. I mean, things happen that all of a sudden it's a crisis, and the family's got to gather. And the real thing that needs to be decided is, like, who's going to take care of dad? Who's going to take care of mom? I mean, who's going to do that? And then many times when the subject of, okay, so we're going to look at an assisted living, we're going to bring in care, people generally just don't know what to do. I mean, that's kind of the definition of a crisis. And what I want to talk to you today, and I want to just kind of leave the numbers out of it, leave the prices out of it, leave how much long-term care costs, leave out the statistics of, like, what are your chances of this happening to you, and all of that kind of stuff, which we talk about on several other videos. Today I want to just talk about the basic core need for doing some planning in this area. And so there will be emotional, physical, and financial consequences to you and your family, whether you're the patient in this situation, you're the spouse of the patient, or you're one of the adult children, that this comes along, people all gather the family, and somebody is going to need to care for this person, and many times they're ill prepared to do it, and you need to hire professionals. So what I want to talk about is, and I want to ask you a few questions, is there a chance, a reasonable chance, that you or your spouse or both of you might live a long time in retirement? Now, does that mean your 80s, your 90s, even longer? Is that possibility there? Because a lot of folks tell me in long-term care planning, oh, my parents, they passed away, or my relatives, I'm not going to live a long time. Well, okay, well, maybe, but is there a chance that you'll beat that out, or you'll, modern medicine, how you take care of yourself, is there a chance that you might live a good long while, or your spouse? So, and I just think about that, and if the answer to that is yes, if you do live a long time, is it possible that you might need care during some of that time, possibly even for a period of years? I mean, sure, there's some people in their late 80s and 90s that get along just fine, and they don't need anybody helping them doing anything. They're driving places, doing things, and they end their life that way, where, the day before they pass away, they're driving to church or driving somewhere. I mean, that is a possibility, but there's a whole lot of people that live to a ripe old age, and they need care, progressive amounts of care, and many times that is provided for or provided for by the spouse. Okay, you've got somebody that has a stroke in their late 70s, and their spouse is in great health, and the spouse just manages along, when the reality is some professional care needs to be brought in. And people who don't address this subject in their 50s and 60s, when they're preparing for retirement and get together a long-term care plan, are just destined for the crisis that comes along. And if the crisis comes along and they got no plan, things are a mess, as the consequences emotionally, physically, and financially are difficult. So if you end up needing the care, the consequences to your family, this doesn't really fall on you if you're the one we're talking about here. Somebody else is going to be making the financial decisions, the care decisions, providing the care, and dealing with the stress of all the family members who have different opinions about the way things need to be done. And especially when it comes to money. I mean, I can't tell you how many people where I've been brought into these situations where there's people in their late 80s, 90s who are sharp as a tack, been managing their money all their life, and they're make good financial decisions, and now they're the patient, they're the person that's being cared for, and they find out that those home health care people are $25 an hour, and they're in here every day for 4 hours, and they, I have situations where they've thrown them out. And that leaves the kids in a real unfortunate position, because it's the only way the kids can go back to work is to bring in some professional people to do their job. So it's all over the board, the financial and emotional consequences to your family. Now, a long-term care plan, even one that only takes care and plans out the first year or two, which I would call a small long-term care plan, and you could refer to it as short-term care, is buying insurance with $50,000 to $100,000 of benefit that's going to pay for like a year of care, buys you in a crisis and buys your family really a whole year to get their act together, as people aren't on the same page. This son thinks we ought to go assisted living. This son thinks we ought to give all the money away and put mom on Medicaid, which is very difficult to do, if not impossible anymore. This daughter wants to come here and give the care herself. This niece, what she says is, let's hire the professional assisted living and bring in the people. People have all different attitudes. And then somebody pipes up and says, well, we can't afford that and we can't yours. A long-term care plan is really not the insurance. A long-term care plan is really just getting everybody on the same page, getting legal documents so you have the right one of your children is going to be the leader, or maybe a backup or a couple of them that are going to make the decisions and make your financial decisions, pay your bills, decide who's going to care for you, pay that agency for the care, and really you need a decision maker in the whole thing, and a decision maker that's aware of your wishes, of how you want things to be handled. So we talk about a long-term care plan, and when I say even limited to the first 1 to 2 years, we can do this without a huge amount of money in premiums for long-term care insurance. We can even do it with your IRA or a little piece of your savings. You can buy these one premium long-term care plans where you just take a portion of your savings, move it to the insurance company, and if you wind up needing care, then it pays benefits out of that and pays even beyond the savings being exhausted. And it really, by having a plan, it turns a crisis into a manageable event. And if you're watching this and you still aren't getting what I'm talking about the crisis and the family event, just ask a friend, ask somebody that you know where their parents have been through this and their family's been through it. They'll know exactly what I'm talking about. I thank you for listening. I'm Hans Scheil.